Hello there, and welcome to the episode 2 of the Task Force Road Trip. Sorry, that just in my head took a weird turn towards the Antique Roadshow. Hey, today we're going to show you a lovely tank from 1953. It's worth $90,000. Sorry. We're not going to Antique Roadshow this, don't worry. This heavy has a very unique stamp on the bottom. Don't ask me. I really don't know. I blame my grandmother. I don't know. Anyways, so yes, today, as opposed to the Antiques Roadshow, we are bringing you Mutiny's Mutiny, which is the, well, it's not the second task force that I joined, but the second installment of the task force road trip, which I already said. All right, I'm gonna stop repeating myself and move forward. So Mutiny's Mutiny is a 25-man that's doing around the tinderbox bottleneck sort of range of ops, sometimes higher, sometimes lower, based on obviously intel and the number of people available to attack any given op on any given Sunday, or whatever day they happen to start the actual op. Yeah, I'd consider them, I guess, kind of like a higher end, like upper middle sort of range. I consider, like the Mambo powder keg to be about mid-level. If you drop down a couple below the keg, the keg rib, the ribeye. Anyway, the prime rib steak. Oh, all right. Mind off of steak, off of antiques, onto task force. We're good. We're gonna make it through this. I promise you guys. We might make a quick stop because now that I've thought of having antique steak, I'm thinking is that actually a thing? Extra aged meat? I don't know. Probably. I'm sure it's out there somewhere. So, with this task force, they're kind of like an upper mid-range task force as far as what they're going after, and like I said, 25-man. So, pretty solid group of guys. Very nice. Definitely work hard to make sure to pull ops off. Now. And I did say they kind of vary the level. Basically, they use the intel gathered for the day to figure out which op they're going to run that night, so they, know how much intel they have to burn on any certain day. Gearheart seems to be a lower intel day for most task forces. At least I've had a number of them be like, we're doing an easier op because it's a Gearheart day, intel's going to be lower. So, on a day like that, they might dip down a little lower. They might do a sour grapes, let's say, or something. But then, on days where there's going to be more intel, like on Hammerman days, which apparently has a pretty decent amount of intel, there's a higher likelihood that, they'll do, I guess, more like a bottleneck, let's say. Or maybe even higher. I don't know. Anyways, so obviously I have my little questionnaire that I ask everybody, and Mutiny's Mutiny is obviously no exception. However, they are most definitely very unique in the way that the question was answered, and I don't want to ruin it, and so I'm not going to go too much into it, but the gist of the story is that Mutiny's Mutiny mutinied from mutiny, obviously. Because I heard you like mutiny, so I put a mutiny in your mutiny so that you could mutiny while you mutiny. Man, that is actually a bit of a tongue twister, saying mutiny so many times. It's also lost all meaning, so it's it feels funny in my mouth. You know how when you say a word too many times? Anyways, So that is the gist of it, obviously. Yes. They mutinied from mutiny. And I could go into far more detail, but I'm not. I'm going to include a link down below in the comments. And basically what it is, because when I asked the task force leader, like, hey, so what's your story? How'd you start? Why'd you start? When'd you start? Do you like, videos of children falling over and hurting themselves? I don't know why. Anyways, instead of actually just like straight up answering, oh, okay, all right, hold on, gotta slam the brakes onto this bad boy right here, because I'm just saying, super awesome attack in the making, right here, right now. As you can see, some strategic genius broke out the smoky mutiny'd and is obviously doing amazing things with it, because what else would a strategic genius do? Okay, maybe not. Maybe it was low-hanging fruit, and I just kind of strolled in and plucked said low-hanging fruit, because that's kind of what I do and how I roll. But let's move on. So like I was saying, just because basically all the rest of this attack is just sitting there going, pew, 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 please heal, pew, 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 please heal. You get the idea. So, and wow, man, does it ever take a long time. When you start getting to these higher end ops, the hit point bonus really starts to kick in and like make sense and make you kind of slow down and go like, wow, that was a buttload of hit points. It took all of those troops this long to slowly burn through it. That's intense. So in that party, it's like watching fireworks. I don't know. So yeah, I asked, and I'm like, all right, so guys, like, kind of how'd this happen? Why, who, what, when, where, pushing children and whatnot. And they were like, rather than just answering the question, why don't you check out this link? And it's the one that's down below in the comments. And what it is almost like a journal of the whole task force. So it's got like the date, it's got what was happening, why they were doing things, what caused certain things to happen, what struggles they're having, and it was absolutely awesome. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I don't know if just anyone would be like, oh wow, that's really neat, and like even be interested. I hopefully people who really enjoy their task force are interested enough. But I just thought it was super cool, and the amount of effort that went into it was the part that got me like so much, because I was like, these guys don't just want to have an op, they don't want to just get loot. The person who's putting so much time into actually writing out this entire like journal as time goes by, and it's constantly updated. Like the last time I checked, like there was an entry for like 3 days before I joined because of something that had been happening there and like what was going on. So like I really thought it was an absolutely beautiful way of showing how much that, you know, they care about their task force and letting it grow and giving it the ability to grow beyond any individual. If anyone leaves who has started the task force, the history is still there, it's still recorded. And I don't know, maybe I'm geeking out a little too much on this, but I thought it was really neat. But yes, the Cole's notes of said history is they mutinied from mutiny, and you're gonna just have to go and check out the thing and give it a read. And actually, while you're there, if you're looking for a 25-man task force that's doing slightly higher end raids, maybe check out the rest of the task force too, because when part of the same questionnaire, when I was talking to them, the task force leader had a really interesting, I guess, dilemma. Not the same as others that I've spoken to. They said their biggest roadblock for progression right now is keeping the task force full. They've had a really rough time. And you can read all about this in the history of the task force, which is kind of funny because I was like, yeah, man, he was talking about this. I remember reading about this, and this is, but yeah, they've been having a really rough time. They've had a high turnover. Ironically, this is the same task force that I joined and was like, basically the task force hashtag was given to me by Fabe, who by the time I had joined the task force had already left the task force, and I was like, oh man, that's rough. It was kind of interesting because I joined in and I'm like, Fabe sent me, please let me join, and they're like, all right, join, and I'm like, wait, where's Fabe? What? And they're like, yeah, it's okay. And I'm like, oh, Nike. All right, that's cool, I guess. Let's move on. So, I got a kind of a good laugh out of it because I was like, okay, I could see how, holding people there could be a problem if, the person who's inviting me to the task force is already gone by the time I show up, and you know how it goes. So anyways, yeah, if you're on the site, you're checking out their history, it sounds interesting, sounds like something you might be interested in being a part of, then definitely, give a holler to people in game, the officers. They can invite you in. The hashtag for Mutiny's Mutiny is obviously also down in the comments because that's the kind of thing I do. So if you check it out and you're thinking, hey, you know what, this sounds like a good place for me, I want to get into a task force that's doing harder ops than I'm doing now, blam. Or maybe you're like, you know what, I want to get in with like a lower level task force so that I can save up power powder or something, blam. Because that's one of the big things. Like, these guys do not require you to boost at all, as long as you pull off your intel and contribute to the ops and stuff. You don't have to worry about boosting or anything. Obviously they're not going to stop you if you really want to boost, but it's kind of like a best effort thing, which is nice if you're looking for a little bit of a break from the really high-end ops. And as you can see, we've got another strategic genius attack here. Alright, maybe not so much. Maybe not such a genius. Maybe not so much with the strategic either. And really, when it comes down to it, every op had fantastic notes already on the op. So I guess if the strategic genius went to anyone, it would have to go to... Oh man, I almost don't even want to say it because I know I'm gonna butcher the name and I'm gonna feel horrible, but I'm gonna make a try. It's Masad. No. The strategic genius, though, is the gentleman who actually laid out the, hey, this is what you should do to finish off this op. And I was like, perfect, let's do this. The only thing I contributed was throwing some critters up there into the completely unprotected shield region, because if you could take out those 2 shield generators, it really does, like, as you can see by the amount of hit points left on the shield, it really does make a big freaking difference. Especially when you don't walk your guys into a flamethrower. Alright, anyways, sorry. No one cares about the attack. It's all about, there we go, the task force. So, yes, also, if you're trying to figure out if, this would be a good fit for you, if you'd really like it there, it is an English-speaking task force, primarily based in North America and Europe. Like, it seems like there's those 2 pockets that have 90% of the players in the task force. That was actually really cool. It just kind of went like in a string. I like that. Go fireworks! Flashy things! Excite me! Alright. So yeah, like if you're in either of those, they do daily ops at a specific time. So if you don't get in the morning, you can get in at night, or vice versa, and hopefully it makes everything a little bit easier and everybody is happy. But it really great. Like, honestly, to give you an idea of what they're like, one of my questions is, like, are there any other rules, unwritten rules, anything that people can expect? And their response was, yeah, there's the unwritten rule of just being a decent human being. Like, that's all they're looking for. Just be a nice person. Don't be a dingus. And people are happy. That's all they're looking for. Like, that seems pretty fair to me, pretty reasonable. And it is what it is. All right. So now, moving on. Of course, I did have to ask. I was like, so, Sabotage? It's a great song, but do you actually do it in Taboom Beach? And the response I got was one of the greatest, because it was like an instant response too. It wasn't like, oh yeah, I gotta think about this one. Do we? No. Straight up, Sabotage results in immediate dismissal from the task force. Just no. Homie, don't play that. All right, no. Sabotage is allowed. All right. Which is great, because it really does show you, like, when you get that strong of a reaction, it really does kind of show you how bad Sabotage is. It's not like, no, we just never use it because it's not cool. It's not like, oh no, it's, no one really likes Sabotage because it's stupid. No. It's, yeah, we don't do Sabotage. If you do Sabotage, you get kicked. Bye-bye. Because it's that bad, which, I don't know. It says something about the Sabotage ability, I guess. The only problem is you kind of have to balance it, because then if you're trying to use Sabotage and you're at a higher level and you've got all kinds of extra crazy intel, I don't know. There's probably a lot of room for abuse and inappropriate things, which is unfortunate, but it's kind of the nature of the beast, and you're going to run into that with any game, with almost any rule. Like, it's hard to make a blanket, like, oh, this works perfectly for everybody. But, well, I don't know. Anyways, so the Sabotage aside, they did have a lot of interesting information, and I kind of, one of my questions is, like, why do you choose the size of task force you're in? Why don't you change it up? Why not bigger or smaller or this or that? And all of that is also covered right in the journal, or the making of, or whatever you want to call it, the Mutiny's Mutiny history, which is kind of cool. Basically, they have various reasons for doing various things, and again, I don't want to ruin it. I want people to go and actually check out the website, because it's really, well, I guess technically it's a forum, but it's really cool, really neat. Also, if you are looking to kind of join in on the reindeer games with these guys, they don't really use any third parties, which is interesting, because almost every other task force that I've joined up with has had, third party communication abilities, because if they kind of needed it. But for this particular task force, they listed the third-party apps as actually generating more drama and more problems than they found they were worth, which I thought was really interesting, because it's like, it just shows you the diversity, where, like, if you talk to 3 other task forces, they're like, oh my god, yes, I need better chat, there's better chat, I need it. And then you talk to this one and they're like, nah, it's perfect just the way it is. If you do more, then, it's too much. It's not cool. You gotta just chill, So I really enjoyed that answer because it showed the flip side of the coin, if you would. And then, of course, they are currently not associated with any feeder task forces. So if their task force is full, unfortunately, that's all she wrote. I believe that would be murder. Murder, she wrote. Murder, she wrote. Murder. So, but at the time that I was actually in the task force and we were trying to, do our thing and figure things out and yada, 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 there were plans in the works to try and do some sort of, collaborative option with some smaller task forces out there. So I say there's currently no links to other task forces, but there very, very well could be in the near future, which I think is very cool because it's kind of nice to share some of the love, share some of the knowledge, and kind of spread things around a little bit to help, the up-and-comers pull off some new strats that have been tested and proven, and likewise handy for guys who are looking for more intel and are struggling because they're higher level and intel is harder to get, or whatever the case may be. And then, of course, finally, what kind of changes would the task force like to see? Which I think is really pertinent because, coming from being a player, everyone always has an idea of like, oh, I think this should be this way, or I want this to be this way, or things would be better if they were this way. Everybody always, is quick to say, oh no, it's broken, it sucks, it should be different. But putting the hammer down and actually saying like, well then, if it sucks and it should be better, how could it be better? And they I guess dropped some knowledge, and something they would like to see for task forces is more communication and coordination between members. So not necessarily a game function, but actually like a player mentality. So what they find is like the co-leaders are responsible for a bunch of stuff, but because their task force is all about everyone being involved and communicating on the forums, for example, and stuff like that, to like share tactics and have ideas. There's not really a way to do that inside the game natively, and they thought that would be a really nice, I guess, add-in or a nice feature that could be added in, and then I get utilized by the people in the task force, and then of course the contribution from each individual person could be bigger or better or more involved, instead of having a bunch of people feel like they're just hanging out on the side, burning time. They can feel like they're involved and they matter and what they're doing is important, which coming from a, I guess, task force member sort of position instead of task force leader, absolutely, I want, my ideas and my strategies and my thoughts to be valued and important. I don't want to just sit there and be in a task force where someone's like, this is exactly what you need to do, this is exactly how you have to attack, because this is how we do it, and I don't care what ideas you have. This is the way that it has to be. And don't get me wrong. I fully understand that there are things out there, like if you're attacking on massive attack or something, like there's going to be times where that sort of mentality is absolutely understandable and probably good and advantageous. But when you're just doing, lowly sour grapes or something, where you should have some room to adjust and, try things, maybe that's not the exact mentality. Sorry. That fits best. But hey, to each their own, right? I'm sure there are people out there that are just like, you know what? I want to go in, I want to blow something up. I don't want to think about how I have to blow it up. I just want it to go boom and see the pretty lightning and shocks and things flickering around, because I like Christmas trees. And by all means, if that's your bag, then awesome sauce, do it. Anyways, guys, I guess this kind of covers everything for Mutiny's Mutiny. It covers all their questions. We went through a couple of their attacks. Thanks very much for watching. Hopefully this has been helpful. Hopefully it's been entertaining. Hopefully it's been educational. And most importantly, hopefully you guys have a fantastic day.